This video is coming from the perspective of somebody who almost unalived themselves in my teenage years and was given a second chance at life and decided then that my life would not be worth living if I did not live it to the fullest. So this is coming from somebody who since then decided that I would pursue everything that I ever wanted to do, try everything that I ever wanted to try, and live my life to the fullest and live full and die empty, like Les Brown says. So that is a perspective that I'm making this video from. I've seen several videos on YouTube on this topic of going harder, especially at the 6 month mark of the year. And I thought I would make one adding my own perspective. And just in case you are new, I do not make content with a bunch of tips on productivity and stuff that you can Google. I always give you a fresh perspective that is fully transparent and based on my own experience. So if you like that, make sure you subscribe. So there are five things that I want to talk about in this episode on the subject of going harder and unlocking a new level or new version of yourself, right? And just to be clear, this is not just about your goals and your dreams or money or getting results and stuff like that. I'm going to be talking from like a holistic perspective, like the entirety of your life. Literally everything from your relationships, your feelings, having all of the experiences, creating a bucket list and checking things off of that bucket list. If you have feelings for somebody, tell them, don't leave any stone unturned, or whatever the saying is. That's the perspective I'm coming from. Your entire life, not just dreams, goals, money, and aesthetics. Okay? So there are five things I want to touch on. Let's get right into the list. The first thing is the quote unquote best version of yourself is seasonal, right? Life is seasonal. You will have seasons and phases and up and down cycles in your life. What I mean by that is I can say I want to become the best version of myself, like I talk about on this channel, on this podcast, but I can hit that level and it's going to work for me for some time. And then I will come to a point where that level can no longer take me further because I've done everything that I can at that level, right? So when we talk about going harder, becoming the best version of yourself, understand that you might be in an answered prayer right now, but eventually you will reach a point where you have to go harder. You have to take it a step further. You have done all you can as this version of yourself, right? And getting to that next level, getting to some of the other goals that you want, that you've been struggling to hit, is likely going to require a mindset shift. It's likely going to require changes in your relationships. You might have to let some people go. You might have to allow God to put new people in your life. You might have to grow in your faith. You might have to learn to trust God more. You might have to learn to submit to His will. You might have to learn to unpack your limiting beliefs. You might have to go to therapy. You might have to forgive some people. There might be a lot of things. There's likely a lot of things that you have to do to get to that next level, to get to that next best version of yourself. It's a continuing process. It's cyclical. It's never, this is the end goal and that's it. As long as there's air in your lungs, that means God is not through with you yet. Okay? And you might be working towards a certain goal, and when you get it, it will do well for some time. It will sustain you. The version of yourself that accomplished that will sustain you, but eventually you will get to a point where you feel like you're at the end of the road and you have to make a decision. It's either stay stagnant and coast at this level and forgo everything else, or do what is required of you so that you can go to that next level. And if that's where you are, I made a whole episode on that last week on 10 things I'm going to be doing to challenge myself to go to that next level in the next 5 months. So if you haven't watched it, make sure you check it out. The second thing I have learned on this topic of going harder is that sometimes your alleged personality or some aspects of your personality are actually trauma responses or traits that you picked up to protect yourself because of trauma, defense mechanisms, survival tactics. It's not actually your personality. Let me explain what I mean. Because of certain things that I have been through in my life, it made me very isolated and keep to myself and like, very confined in my own space. And so for the longest time, I always told myself that I'm not a people person. I don't really like people. I couldn't do a job where I have to be on the phone on calls all day because I just don't like people that much. I did. And then other aspects made me feel like, there's no way that I would have a podcast or have a YouTube channel, right? Because I just wanted to be so recluse and stay in this cave and just, be small and be hidden. I was comfortable with that because the the cards that life dealt me made me become somebody who was very reserved and to myself. And I'm still introverted because I replenish my energy from being alone versus with people. But just because I'm an introvert, that doesn't mean that everything that requires me to put myself out there is an automatic no or an automatic disqualification. The reason why I looked at those things that way wasn't necessarily because I was introverted, but it was because of certain things that I have been through that made me feel like, why would anybody listen to me on the internet? Why would my life experiences be of value to anybody who doesn't know me or to anybody at all, right? Why would I want to do this and that? Why would I do these things? Why would I, like, I want you to realize that sometimes your personality traits are actually trauma responses or defense mechanisms. Like when people say, like, for example, I'll use an older version of me as well. I used to struggle with being toxic and petty, like pettiness specifically, and I was very vindictive. If you did something to me, I had to do something to you back, so you know that I'm not somebody to play with, right? That was my defense mechanism for protecting myself so people don't feel like they can do whatever they want with me. So people don't feel like they can just talk to me any type of way or treat me any type of way, right? That toxic trait was me trying to protect myself and defend myself from people who wanted to take advantage of me. But once I learned to deal with that and heal from that, I didn't have the desire to be toxic or petty anymore. And so as a result, my relationships got better. So that's an example of how, like, sometimes the things that we think is our personality, or sometimes the reason why we are being held back from doing the things that we really want to do, is because certain aspects of our personality that has us convinced that that's not who we are is actually because of trauma. And that's why when I say go harder, I don't just mean work diligently on your goals and do what's required and I mean make sure you are also focusing on healing at the same rate that you are pursuing your goals, because sometimes it's because of those traumas that's why you haven't achieved those goals yet. It's not always because you're not working hard enough, right? It could be because of limiting beliefs that you have that's causing you to procrastinate. Sometimes your alleged personality is literally buried under all of the trauma, and it's a bunch of traits that you have adopted to protect yourself, but it's not conducive to what the best version of you looks like that is required at the next level that you need to go to. So it's not always about working harder or working more hours at your goals. Sometimes it's looking at other areas of your life to make sure that they are not hindering you while you are working on your goals. You cannot just be laser focused on goals and money and career and all of these things and completely negate every aspect of your life that affects that as if it doesn't. And I saw this quote that said, sometimes it's not about becoming the best version of yourself, it's about unbecoming all of the things you aren't so that you can be who you are supposed to be, or something like that. I'll post it on the screen or leave it in the description. So when I say go harder, I don't just mean on your goals. I want you to also prioritize getting to know yourself and doing all of the things that you think you will enjoy, because sometimes when you do them, you might not enjoy them and you realize that, oh, I sold myself this lie, or I allowed people or society to sell me this lie because I believed this thing about myself, but I'm realizing that that's not actually who I am, because this thing right here is not true. I hope that makes sense. The third thing, which I alluded to, is procrastination. The reason why you need to go harder is because you have let procrastination steal enough of your time. You keep operating as if you have more time, as if tomorrow is promised. It is not. There are people who died last night who had plans for today, right? You have no idea when your time will come. I saw a quote that said procrastination is the arrogance of believing that you will have an opportunity to do that thing tomorrow. And that literally hit me like a ton of bricks because tomorrow is not promised. You don't know how important that thing God has been asking you to do today is vital to what He wants to do in your life next week. But when next week comes and it's not done, it's like you are out of position. You don't get to have that blessing or that thing you were supposed to have because you're procrastinating for whatever reason. And a lot of times it's limiting beliefs and people pleasing and all of these things, which I made a whole video about procrastination, so go watch it. But procrastination is the arrogance of thinking that you have more time or you'll get another opportunity to do that thing tomorrow. And tomorrow is not promised. It's time to go harder because you have let procrastination rob you of enough time. How many more years are you going to allow yourself to wake up in the same position? Like, how many times have you lived this specific day over and over knowing that it's not enough to get you where you want to go, right? How many times have you snoozed your alarm? How many times have you given yourself excuses? Good excuses, but an excuse nevertheless, because regardless of whether it was a good excuse or a bad excuse, nothing got done, right? How many times are you going to give yourself good excuses or justify not doing something because you don't feel like it? If there is something you have been wanting to do for years, maybe 5 years, maybe 1 year, are you really going to let another 5 years go by with no progress whatsoever? And I'm speaking from experience. When I was procrastinating on creating my podcast and my YouTube channel, obviously that's not my reality now, but when I was procrastinating, it's like I had to ask myself, how much more time am I going to let by of this thing just hanging over my head and not having anything to show for it? I'm thinking of how unfulfilled I was at that point in time because I wasn't really doing anything of servitude. And I see the joy and the peace and the fulfillment that what I do brings me now. And I cannot imagine 3 years in, I cannot imagine being at that point 3 years ago, today, adding an extra 3 years of unfulfillment because I put things off for another 3 years. So if you've been putting something off for like 5 years, 1 year, however you feel now, however miserable and unfulfilled you feel now, imagine adding another 5 years to that, adding another year to that. What would your life look like if you had nothing to show for the things that you wanted to do because you let procrastination rob you of even more time? You see what I mean? You have to go harder because you have let so much time pass by because of procrastination. It's like you're playing catch up at this point. Now, all things are working together for the good of those who love the Lord and who are called according to His purpose. I can testify that all of the time that I quote unquote wasted, I learned so much that I cannot say that it was genuinely wasted because in hindsight, I see how He used it for my benefit, right? So He will use everything if you're in His will. If you're not, good luck. But he will use everything. But at the same time, it's like, as a person, you just cannot help but think, I had this idea a year ago. I've been sitting on this thing for 2 years, for 3 years. Are you willing to let another 2-3 years go by and you have nothing to show for that thing? Like, how much research do you have to do? It's better to get feedback and continuously improve something for 3 years than to let 3 years of research and procrastination go by and then you put it out and it's trash because you're starting 3 years down the line from zero, when 3 years down the line, you could have 3 years of experience. You see what I mean? Now, the fourth thing, and I had this one, I had a serious conversation with myself on this thing some time ago. And I had to ask myself, what do you gain from playing it safe? Right? And I know a lot of people, if you are set on, making excuses, I'm sure you have a list. Spare me. right? Just spare me. I had to have that conversation with myself. I'm like, what do you gain from playing it safe? I'm like, well, nobody's criticizing me. I don't look stupid. I'm safe here in my shell, in my cave, just minding my business, being outside the way. But then I had to ask myself, what am I losing from playing it safe? Like, what is the opportunity cost here? What am I sacrificing for playing it safe? And by the time I got through that list, I was like, I literally have to just do it. Because what you lose from playing it safe is a lot more and a lot worse than what you gain. The imaginary or perceived safety that you feel from staying in your shell and not doing the things that are required to get you to that next level is nothing compared to what you lose or what you give up stepping outside of your comfort zone and going after the things you want or the life you want in general, not just the things, but the lifestyle and the habits and everything else, right? Because here's the thing, as somebody who for years now, since that, experience I told you about in the beginning, who decided to live my life to the fullest and leave no stone unturned, I can tell you now from years of experience that literally everything that I was afraid of was not as bad as I thought it was. The only reason why I put it off for so long and I thought it was so terrible because I had magnified the fear or the negative outcome versus the positive outcome. I had more faith in the negative outcome of that thing than the positive outcome. And when I finally said to myself years ago, I'm not going to let fear dictate my life, and I started doing those things, each time I realized that it was not as bad as I thought. I realized that literally the things we want to do, the only reason why we remain stagnant and we don't do them is because of a fear we associate with that thing by having more faith in the negative outcome than the positive outcome. And when you start doing it, you realize that the negative outcome doesn't happen as often as you think it will. And even when it does, it's never as bad as you think it will be. And the fact that you did it and got it out of the way is so worth the fact that you did it, even if it had a negative outcome, because now you eliminate the what if. Now you are no longer thinking, well, what if I did this? Or what if I did that? What if I took a chance on myself? What if I didn't care what people thought and I just posted the video? What if I just released the book? What if I just created the page and started posting my content, right? What if I just went back to school and did this thing that I really wanted to do? What if I just obeyed God and do what he wants me to do? Like, the weight of that is so heavy. As somebody who has been there, I am telling you, even if you try the thing and it doesn't work out, just the benefit of removing that weight, eliminating that weight of what if is so worth it, even if it doesn't work out. Because you cannot live with what ifs. Personally, I just decided that was just too much for me to bear. I did not want to play it small anymore. So even if it took me a year to do something, I had made up my mind. I had resolved to do everything that I wanted to do. And I'm telling you, it's 100% worth it, even if it doesn't work out, because you will get to eliminate the what if. But the fears are literally just faith in the negative consequences versus the positive outcomes. And it takes just as much energy to believe in the negative as it does the positive. So why not believe in the positive instead? You lose way more playing it safe than you gain from that temporary safety that you feel. You literally sacrifice your dreams. You sacrifice the purpose God has for you. You sacrifice the best version of yourself. You sacrifice your relationships. You sacrifice the opportunity for the people you love and care about to receive the best version of you because you are too afraid to do the things that you really want to do. And it's never, it's in hindsight, I can tell you it's never that serious. Every fear that I ever had from creating a podcast has come to pass, and I am still here. I survived. It wasn't that bad. Like, there was a time one of my posts went viral and people dragged me on the internet, and I realized that these people had resolved not to understand. They had committed to misunderstanding me. They had no interest in, you know, watching the full episode for context. They took a 10-second clip and ran with it and made their own opinions. They had already decided to hate and leave a hate comment. They did not care what my reason or my justification was. So it was a waste of my time to argue with them. And I built thick skin, and I put the phone down, and I realized there's life outside of the internet. Right? So, like, it taught me to be more resilient, and I'm still here. It's not worth it. You lose so much more than you gain from playing it safe. It's a false sense of security. It's literally a trap. And the fifth thing I want to talk about is your habits and your lifestyle. This is a big one. So let me explain what I mean by this. Tell me if this sounds like you, or if this sounds like something you can relate to. You have a job, whether you like it or not, it's irrelevant here. You have a job, you go to work, you wake up early, you go to work, you sit in traffic, or maybe you work from home, you log off, and then you decide what to eat, you make dinner, and maybe you watch some TV, and then you have to get ready for bed, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up and you do it all over again for the next few days, all while anticipating the weekend, dreading the week. You cannot wait for Friday, because Saturday is when you have your first full day where you don't have to do anything for anybody. You can spend it however you want. And then Sunday too, you have the weekend to run all of your errands, etc., see your friends, etc. And then Sunday night comes and you're dreading it because you start that cycle, that hamster wheel over again. You know why that is so dreadful? Because you have no hobbies. You have nothing entertaining going on in your life. All you do is go to work, maybe see a friend or family members here and there, scroll on TikTok, consume media, and then you go to bed and you wake up and you do it again the next day. You are not fulfilled in other areas of your life because your lifestyle and your hobbies, your habits are not conducive of the best version of yourself or even a productive version of yourself. You're just operating on autopilot. You're doing what's required without thinking about it, and then it's like you feel miserable because there's no novelty in your life. There's no element of surprise. There's nothing to look forward to. There's no trip, no solo date, no friendship date, no real date. Nothing to look forward to, and your life is just so monotonous, right? Why am I saying this? Because when I say go harder, like I said again, it's not just about your goals. I also want you to go harder when it comes to your lifestyle and your habits and your hobbies. I don't want you to just think of a bunch of goals you want to do and then transform your life in the next 5 months like I'm doing in my challenge. You literally just do what's required. You do the monotonous stuff, and then you go to bed, you wake up, and you do it all over again. Nothing to look forward to. When I say go harder, I mean go harder on your habits, your lifestyle, and your hobbies as well. Make sure you're pouring into yourself in all areas of your life, not just your goals and stuff, because you will burn out very quickly. You will feel drained very quickly, and you will stop enjoying the things that you are working on for your dreams. You will stop enjoying the things that you are passionate about because your cup is so empty. You are so drained in other areas of your life that you don't have balance, and it's now starting to take away from the things that you are really passionate about. So when I say go harder, I mean go harder in all areas of your life. Go harder in your lifestyle and get some hobbies and build a conducive routine that aligns with the best version of yourself. So for example, in my last video on the 5-month challenge that I'm doing myself, I would highly encourage you to watch it. I talked about how one of the things I'm going to be doing is creating and aligning with my core values, right? Not just goals. So if you follow that advice, which I would recommend, go watch the video to get more context. But if you follow that advice and you say, okay, I want to work on my habits and my lifestyle so that my life is not monotonous and it has novelty and things that keep me excited about life and not dreading every single day, then maybe you say health is a core value of yours. So now you can add in some, athletic sports or like a workout class like Pilates or gym or something that you can add to your daily routines so that not only are you focusing on your health, but you also have something else that you do that is not just work related, and it could have the possibility of meeting other people. So you're not just working and scrolling and doing all of that stuff all day, but you also get an opportunity to socialize and meet new people. Like whatever it is, that's just an example. When you are going harder, don't just think, oh, let me sit in a closet or let me sit at my desk and isolate myself and delete all of my social media handles and just focus on my goals 24/7 and not do anything else. You will get burnt out. Add in some hobbies, add in some habits that will also help you become a better version of yourself altogether and be well rounded, so that you don't feel like you're pouring from an empty cup eventually when you're working on the things that you're passionate about. Focus on building a life that you actually enjoy and not just one that revolves around money and your career and all of these things. Don't just make it all about the goals. Also create different outlets for enjoyment, okay? While you work on that. So with all of that said, I did make a video last week with 10 things that I'm doing myself to glow up in the next 5 months by the end of the year. I highly recommend you watch that if this video motivated you and you want some practical things that you can do. I also created a community. So if you want to join me on this 5-month glow up challenge, if you want to become the best version of yourself, not just with goals, but also become well rounded and incorporate some of these things in your life, I created a community so we can do this together and we can hop on calls and we can chit chat and we can hold each other accountable. So if you are interested, then go to secludedthoughts.com/community. I also give you a free goal planner so that you can plan your goals for the next 5 months and join me on this glow up challenge. Okay, so this is your sign to go harder in the next few months. If you want practical tips, practical things that I am doing, go watch last week's episode. If you want to follow me along my personal journey, because I need accountability and I'm going to be sharing all the things that I'm doing real time, then follow me on TikTok. And if you want to join me in the challenge and glow up in the next 5 months as well, then you can join the community and we can do that together with other like-minded women, because I also post more content in the community just like this, but also with more actionable and practical advice and things that will help you in this process based on what has helped me and things that I have learned living my life authentically and, not holding back, fully in purpose, and as someone who has resolved to live my life to the fullest. So if you want that, then make sure you join the community. But that's all I have to say today, and I will talk to you next Wednesday.